Hi there, this is Jennifer. Welcome to Crafting in Carrollville. I'm so glad you've joined us today. We are working on just a couple projects. One is very specific to Valentine's Day, and the other one is just something that I am doing to get rid of some things in my workshop here. We actually made this project at our local library where I teach a monthly workshop, and I had a bunch of supplies left over and just some odds and ends of things I thought I could use to make these perpetual block calendars. Dollar Tree used to sell these for $1, and they were a great deal because I could change out the backs on them to a more substantial version of themselves and add my artwork, and I sold dozens upon dozens of those. Anyway, so I'm making them sort of from scratch this time. Totally would not recommend making these in bulk like I did. Like, it was fine for a library project because we all only made one of them, but making a bunch of them was just as tedious as I thought it would be. But I am just using these paint stir sticks from Home Depot. I think they cost $1.48 for a 10-pack. I need them in 3-inch strips and in about 1.5-inch strips. So I'm just using my miter box and my handsaw to cut those down. I've taped them together and marked them off. I've taped them together obviously because I want them all to stay together as I cut them, and that helps with a couple things. It helps me get them, all 10 cut at once, and it also make sure that they're all the same size, because at the end of the day we want these to be square and not cattywampus or crooked, so that helps me get them all straight. So now I'm taking the tape off and the wrapper off, and I'm going to use some Loctite glue here, some super glue. First I'm going to just sort of sand off those rough edges from where I cut, and then I'm going to use that Loctite glue. And it just takes a tiny little bit of this glue. I have to snip the top of it off because apparently it dried a little bit. So I snipped the top off, and then it takes just a couple dots of that glue to adhere it well to the other surface. So if you ever use Loctite glue, I love the way super glue has made it so much easier. You don't get your fingers all stuck together because of their great new packaging. I really appreciate that. So I'm just using that Loctite glue to create a box where my blocks, my number blocks, and my the dowels that say the months on them are going to rest. We're also going to do something a little unexpected on these calendars. We're going to add a graphic that I think makes them even more functional and great. And I didn't include this one in my thumbnail because I'm not sure that it was the most attractive thing I've ever made, but it is practical, and I think that I know that the library class really enjoyed it, and they knew that they would find a practical use for it. In fact, it was funny. One of the girls I heard commenting, her husband had been looking for one of these specific things earlier that week. So I thought that was pretty neat. So it's always nice when you make a project that's not only, aesthetically pleasing and that you made, but it's also functional. So this is going to be a cute little functional project, and I made 14 of them, and I made them the tedious way, like this. Like I said before, when Dollar Tree sold them on the regular basis, I could just buy them in bulk, replace the backs, and the cubes and the dowels and the little box were already provided, but that's not the way it is anymore. In fact, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but they're pretty much phasing everything out that was, $1.25, that was actually worth buying. Now I'm painting these. I'm going to paint all of them, of course, front, back, bottom, everywhere. Everywhere is going to be painted. This is an Oops paint I found at Home Depot this week, and don't know what color it is. Just I always like to try whatever Oops paint they have on their rack. I try to pick it up if I like the color because I know I'll use it, and it's super cheap. So I love doing things that way, on the cheap. That's me. I'm always going to tell you where I find the cheap supplies. These little dowels that you see in the picture there, Those I also bought at Home Depot. They are a 3/8 inch square dowel, and I cut them much like I did my little paint stir sticks, only I used miter shears to cut them, and they cut through them like butter. So those are about probably 2 3/4 inches wide. And then these 1-inch cubes I got at Lowe's, and they sell in a pack of 27. I thought it was a little odd that they were odd numbered. Now I have my Mod Podge here. I've shown you. I'm going to seal this water slide paper. This is water slide paper. We haven't used it in quite some time, but it's just a regular type of paper called water slide that you order from Amazon. You use your regular inkjet printer. You don't have to reverse the image or anything like that, but you do have to seal it 3 times with an acrylic sealer, and I used Mod Podge acrylic sealer. I feel like that's the best one. I can tell you why it's the best one, because it doesn't rubberize the product like some of the other thicker sealers do. It leaves it sort of in its original state. It literally just seals the ink. So I feel like this is the best product to use, is the Mod Podge acrylic sealer. I'm just cutting these all apart separately so that I have enough of them to spread out over my 14 projects I have here. I have a few extra because, you know, as smoothly as this goes, sometimes, you know, you mess up 1 or 2, and I did do that. I'm using lukewarm water, mostly warm, to soak my graphic first, and I'm doing sort of a fussy cut. I'm cutting as close to the edge as I can because you can see I didn't leave much of a border there. So this is the graphic that we're using. We're using a kitchen conversion chart, and I got this from Creative Fabrica. Of course, there will be a link to Creative Fabrica in the description box where you can get these graphics and several more in that bundle that are just as useful. But I liked this one because it seemed to include more conversions. It has the meat temperature, you know, all the kitchen conversions that you would use on a regular basis. I just want to show you how simple this is to do with water slide paper. I'm out of practice. I haven't done this for several months, but you can see I'm holding the graphic down. I'm pulling the carrier sheet out, and I get it a little crooked because, like I said, I'm out of practice. I haven't done water slide in quite some time, but it's easy just to lift. You definitely have a grace period when it comes to using your water slide paper, and then I just wipe the water out from under the paper, and I seal it again with the Mod Podge on top when it's all dry. So that's an important step. You don't want to forget that step, or eventually over time your water slide paper will lift up, but you do want to seal it. Sometimes I seal it with a heavier sealer like the Rust-Oleum 2X clear coat, and that's a good one too. So I like the matte finish, but I'm just doing a few of these to show you how quickly you can do 14 projects in one little sitting. So there's my second one, and I want to show you as I'm rubbing that. I think this is the one. I rubbed the ink off. Yes, I rubbed the ink off a little bit on that bottom graphic there, and so I just replaced that really quickly with another one. That's why I printed out a bunch of extra, because sometimes that happens. And the reason the ink rubbed off is because maybe I missed sealing that one really well. You do have to seal your water slide paper. So 3 times is what they recommend, and you let the sealer dry for 15 minutes, or, you know, whatever the package instructions say on your particular sealer. So, and also, I don't know if I mentioned, you let the graphic soak for about a minute. About a minute is really, in my experience, what it takes. So, and this is my third one. I'm just gonna pop that on there, and they all go pretty smoothly. I really, throughout this process, I just had to replace that one, and that's probably, like I said, where I missed sealing it well. And as I'm going, I'm using a dry paper towel to wipe the water out from under the graphic. You don't want that water to stay there. Now I'm going to work on my cubes. So these cubes have to have numbers on them, obviously, for the dates throughout the month. And there are 2 cubes. Obviously, there are 12 sides, that means. And so on each cube, you want to have a 0, a 1, and a 2, obviously, because you have the 11th and the 22nd to contend with. And also you want to have a 0 on each one, because a 0 will go in front of each number that is a one-digit number. So on one cube you will have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then on your second cube you will have 0, 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, and you only need a 6 that will act as your 6 and your 9. You do not need a 9, so don't worry about that. That's the right way to configure your block. I'm using these little stamps from the Dollar Tree. They're super cheap. I just added a little dowel piece to them so I could hold on to them better and sort of roll them like I just did there on that 2. I sort of roll them off the surface, and that helps make sure that I don't get extra ink where I don't want it to be. And if I do, smudge them with extra ink a little bit, I just come back and touch them up. Now I'm going to do my little square dowels here. You can see that one I left unpainted, so you can see what they look like before I painted them. I'm just going to use these clickable letters. I got this particular set from, of all places, the Bins, of course, and it was missing a T. So you can see on my August there, I used the I to hold my place, and then I came back with a paint pen and just, gave the T a top. So that really wasn't any problem at all. Also, I had to, what's that word? I had to use the abbreviation for some of the months because they were too long to fit on the cube, and that's fine. Like, I could have gone with maybe a smaller alphabet had I wanted to buy some more clickable stamps. They do sell clickable stamps at Michael's. I don't know if they have them on Hobby Lobby, but I did find some on Amazon as well. You can buy them in upper and lowercase, so that's some good information. But these, literally, I picked them up at the Bins, so they cost me, generally nothing, maybe 50 cents or so. And I felt like, besides the fact that they were missing a T, which, RSTLNE, don't we all know that from Wheel of Fortune? We sort of need T's in our alphabet, but it's okay, I fixed it. Now I'm just adding a ribbon. I tied a finger bow for all of my bows here. And if you want to know how to tie a finger bow, I did cover that about as well as I could in my last video. Another Valentine's Day video where I featured my own artwork, which also later on in this video we do have some artwork to offer you as a digital download, so stay tuned for that, don't forget. And if you are not subscribed yet, please subscribe, like, comment, share, all of the things that are going to help us bring you more content here on YouTube. We do have a show coming up at the end of this month, so that's what we're gearing up towards. That's what I've made all of these things for. We have a show. So you saw I just tacked those tails down on my ribbon because I don't want them to get in the way of what's actually on this project. I want it to be seen. So there they are, and I made, I think, 14 of these. Maybe I don't show them all, but that's how many I made. So that was a super tedious project that it looked a lot easier in that video than it was in real life. Now, these things here, I want to talk to you about this. This was another library project that we made a couple years ago, actually. And I've had these blocks sitting around, and it was just time for me to get rid of them. It was time to make some Valentine's Day stuff because our show at the end of the month does coincide with, Valentine's Day shopping. So I'm going to use an embroidery needle there, and I'm going to make some beaded block garlands, we will call them. These letters here did not start off life as blocks. They were actually shelf sitters that were all connected to say either my love or be mine, and they had a heart. They came from Dollar Tree when things were still $1, and I actually used a jigsaw to separate all the letters and make these blocks, and then we of course put these together at the library a couple years ago. And I'm just going to take advantage of the fact that I had a bunch of these left over. I sort of overbuy sometimes because I feel like if it's a good project and I enjoy it and it can be done quickly, I can make a few for some shows. And this is what I'm doing here. I just sort of let these get away from me and they sat around way too long. But so after I cut these blocks, obviously I painted the sides and the backs of them so that they would be white. like the front. So the beauty of this project is the letters were already there. I didn't need to add the letters at all. This was pretty much a ready-made project. Those letters just needed to be separated. So I'm using these beads to create this beaded block garland that were a car seat cover. If you remember those old car seat covers back from the 80s, they were supposed to be super comfortable and great to sit on, but I will tell you one thing about them that I remember, because I did have them in my car. They pulled my hair all the time, so I didn't really appreciate that aspect of them, but I do appreciate the aspect that I have had these beads for about 4 years now, and this was the very last of them. So after dozens upon dozens of projects, I have finally rid myself of a car seat cover of beads. I'm using just a regular nautical rope, or whatever this is, from the Dollar Tree. This is, of course, purchased when rope was still available and it was still $1. So I'm making a tassel for the end of my garlands here. I love to make tassels this way. It's so much easier just to tie that off, just like I'm going to do here. I'm going to wrap twine around what I want to be the head of my tassel, and I'm going to tie it off there. Then I'm going to wrap one end around the head clockwise and wrap the other around counterclockwise, and then tie them off where I want them to meet. I'm going to tie them several times. The reason I'm wrapping them around the opposite way, obviously, is so that when I tie them, they do not come unraveled. That gives it a very tight hold. I'm going to trim those twine pieces off eventually, but in the meantime, I'm going to unfurl all of those strands into thinner strands. And I love to make tassels this way because it makes all the pieces wavy, but not in an askew way, but they all sort of follow the same pattern. So I really like that. It gives them more uniformity, and it's just super simple. Like, I didn't have to wrap it around something 52 times or whatever. That was just so simple. And then I trim off the edges so that they're all mostly the same length, and then I attach them to each end of my garland. I just use obviously my fingers to thread it through with the twine that I had left over. So super important to leave yourself some twine at the end of each end of your garland. I make, I think 7 of these, maybe 8. By the time it's all done, I have plenty. So these are going to be inventory at our show in Fort Myers at the Lee Civic Center, January 23rd, 24th, and 25th. I'm going to attach another tassel to the end of each of those, and this is my very last one. I've threaded my way through all of those stacks of blocks and all of those beads. So I'm officially out of blocks and out of beads. So that's good news. I offed something in my workshop, and I can sell them and be done with them. So that'll be a great thing. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I just need to look around and do simple projects that I know will get rid of something. So now I'm putting my needle back where it goes. Did you see that? That was super spectacular. I can't believe it. Sometimes I remember to do that. So there we are. I have a stack of garlands here. They're all going to go in a wire basket that I'll show you at the end of the video. You'll see all my stuff ready to go to market at the end of this month. This is our last project. It really can't even be called a DIY. It's so simple. These frames came from the Dollar Tree. They were $1.25. They are slap out of them. I have been to 7 different Dollar Trees hunting for more of these, and the reason I want more is because our last show we sold sets of what I'm going to put in these frames by the dozens. So I have made these for 3 straight shows now, or maybe 4, and each time we've sold 40 or more sets of these, so I have beta tested them for you. They are very good sellers. I am waxing these beads because they just need to look a little more fancy, a little more put together. We tried a little bit because after all, this is supposed to be a DIY, but it's basically just putting pictures in a frame. And the reason I keep talking about these pictures is because y'all have asked for them, I've offered them, and now they are ready to be purchased as a digital download. So if you need some bathroom cows in your inventory, I got you. And you do need them, because I have sold, like I said, dozens upon dozens of them. The last show we had, they all sold out on the first day, and people came back the second day wanting to buy them, and they were not there. And so, because I couldn't find any frames at that point. So here they are. We have a girl cow, and she is peeking out from behind a shower curtain with curlers in her hair and a toothbrush in her hand. And so she is going into half of my 5x7 frames. I have enough to make 10 sets of 5x7s, and I had enough to make 8 sets of 4x6s, and I can all but guarantee you that they will be sold at the end of the month, probably by the first day, if not the second. So, and I don't have access, to these frames. Dollar Tree apparently isn't putting them out anymore, and that's fine. I just printed these out on regular printer paper. I use HP satin finish paper. I do not like gloss paper. It's just too glossy, and it sort of, I find it distracting. So I like the satin paper. And for things that aren't framed, I prefer matte paper. So, and matte paper is definitely what you want to use if things aren't framed. So, obviously, this is just, can't even be called a DIY. It's literally just me framing pictures. But this is going to be worth my while. I sell these for $15 each, or 2 for $25, because I do try to encourage people to buy them in sets, because then I'm not left with a boy or a girl. And honestly, it's the girls that sell more, because for one thing, I saw a lot of dads buying them for their daughters. I saw couples, and also people bought them for wedding gifts, and I thought that was precious. Like, I was super excited to see that. So I just love that you can put little projects like this together, and it doesn't take time, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort, but people appreciate, what they see. So this was a major, sort of, if you want to sell a lot of something, you sort of create a market for it. And so I would encourage you to try your market to see if these will sell. I know my sister prints these same cows that we developed together on note cards, and she sells the heck out of them. So that's another idea. You could print note cards with these, put them in super bougie frames. Like if you have a thrift store that you can find super bougie frames for cheap. That's how they are in my own bathroom at home. Anyway, we are nearing the end of our video. I just wanted to show you that you can make some bulk items really quickly and put them in your booth and hopefully do really well. Anyway, I'm so glad y'all watched this video. Leave a comment, share, like, all the things that will help me get myself together here on YouTube. I sure appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.